Talks with Lisa B is back. We're in a new season with some new people, and I am telling you, I have really missed y'all. But I'm back and I'm on PTV1. So I hope you're tuning in to PTV1. I want to thank my sponsors, my producer, Gabriel Solomon, who has brought the show back. And I want to tell you, this season is going to be hot. And we've already started off. I'm here sitting next to Easy D. If you don't know anything about him, you need to know this. The man is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the music industry. He was one of the founders of the Pros. Tell us about that, Easy D.
Well, first, thank you very much for bringing me on, and I think I'm your first guest, so...
You're my first guest of this season.
The Pros, we were a DJ pool. It was established in 1979 by my mentor, Rico Casanova. And in essence, in the 80s, a DJ pool was the alternative for artists that were not able to get on mainstream radio. So for out here in the Bay, KMEL, KSOL, KDIA, didn't really matter. If you weren't part of the establishment, you weren't in the game. And so what we did as the Pros, we had the lock on all the top clubs in the Bay Area, in the country, as well as college radio. And so we were able to use our influence to help these young men and women go from where they were to where they wanted to be and where they needed to be.
And so there was no internet at this time.
Oh, no.
See, so we're going back a little bit to some history now.
Yes.
This is a time in history where you really had to network.
Absolutely.
You had to be an artist, you had to be a performer, and you had to have some hustle.
Yes, and you had to have a lot of belief in yourself. And even with all of that, you'll notice talent wasn't even in the top 5. Okay? We made sure talent was number 1.
Okay.
But yes.
What do you mean by that when you say you made sure the talent was number 1?
Well, back in the day, we would have labels, regular record labels, whether they were Top Scale, the Epics, the Columbias, or the entry level, want to do it all on our own. Well, we would have people that were truly talented. We're talking about Pebbles, we're talking about LL Cool J, we're talking about Will Smith. These were talented young men and women. Right? We also had a lot of artists come through that had a lot of money behind them, but did not have that talent.
Okay.
And so we weren't about showcasing just anybody. You had to bring your A game, period, because our reputation was at stake. And so it was interdependent. You were relying on us to bring our strength. And in return, we were relying on you to bring your A game.
Okay, let's talk about the A game for a minute.
Sure.
Because that's very important. And I'm going to tell you it's funny because what's the guy that plays Forrest Gump?
Oh, Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks. I actually had a conversation with him one time. And I was talking to him about my movie. And he said to me, well, what makes you think your movie is good? And I was telling him, and he said, well, no, what makes you think it's good is because you wrote it. It's because it's your baby.
Exactly.
So when you say bring your package, most people think their package is together because they just put a package together. But what makes a package complete? If they want to bring their A game, what should they have?
What should they have? Belief in themselves.
Okay.
Period. Now, I'm also a religious person, so of course I'm going to say bring God into your life. Mm-hmm. However, the industry doesn't look at religion necessarily, and so so when I say belief in yourself, you can take that as you wish.
Your confidence.
Your confidence.
You had to come and be. You had to come and know and own a room when you walk into it.
Absolutely. And if you walked out of that room feeling like you didn't own it, well, you didn't own it.
Right.
Yeah.
Did they miss you when you left?
And that was the important thing. Did they miss you when you left, as opposed to who was that?
Right.
But that was the package. But that package, from a talent standpoint, you could have it very well produced. We had some great artists that were very well produced, but they didn't have the talent. You know, it was hickory dickory dock, the clock ran up the tree. Huh? You know, this doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
So, but then you also had people, my girl Rosie Gaines is a prime example. I was fortunate to put on what we used to call putting on the hits. And it was at Los Madonnas College up in Pittsburgh. And I had Rosie there. You know, she was one of the artists that performed.
Right.
And she won too. But all she had was family and herself. Fast forward a few years, all of a sudden I'm listening to Prince, Diamonds and Pearls. I'm like, you know, that voice sounds familiar. And it's Rosie Gaines.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my God, wow. Wow, my girl, wow, you know. But she always had a belief in herself, and she's still in the game today, Rosie.
Right. And you know, belief is you have to have it. I'm gonna tell you why. Because if you belief fuels your hustle.
Oh, absolutely.
If you don't believe it, you can't achieve it. And it doesn't mean that you have to have a lot of money at the time or whatever, but you have to believe. And if you truly believe, you'll start from wherever you need to start.
I don't know if you want to save this for the next segment or not, but I can give you a living example, Mr. Stanley Burrell, aka Hammer. That person personifies exactly what you just said about belief in yourself and hustle and being the first. And he was a master at being the first.
You know, that's a good thing we're talking about being the first, because a lot of people now are trying to imitate something.
Yes.
No one is trying to be what I consider to be original. They come with a different sound, a different way of looking. Everybody is molded after somebody. How do you break out when you're the first? Because everybody, even if you ask for seed money for somebody for your project, they want you to be looking. They want it to be able to identify it with somebody else.
Well, no, and that's a very difficult question, and unfortunately, I can't be the one to answer, and here's the reason why. It took 35 years to understand that the pros were the first. We talked about this the other day.
They were the first.
And we didn't know we were in it. You know, we didn't know we were the first. We were too busy just doing it to be the first.
Wow.
You know, we were just doing it. It's not like Man on the Moon. We all know who Neil Armstrong was because we have it on tape.
Right.
When we were into it deep, we were doing it to help promote artists because radio was not.
You were a pioneer.
Yes.
You were a pioneer. You set a precedence in that thing, because it wasn't that thing until you made it that thing. So you were groundbreaking.
It is there's an artist that's out by the name of Critter, and I'm going to release his new single, not today, but he has a song. It's called Something Out of Nothing.
I hope you bring him on the couch with Lisa B.
I will try and get him off his schedule. He's a very busy young man, but he actually, and there are other artists such as Critter who, and I think that they would be better suited to answer that question. I can tell you that his song, as an example, and there are others. There are Jay Griffey, Gwen Majors. If you go to my Facebook page, you'll see a lot of them.
Yes.
But they are striking out on their own. They're not doing it to be the first. They're doing it to be the best.
Because they have a vision.
They have a vision. And I think that's the answer. If you shoot to be the best, you wind up being the first. You know, you have Michael Jordan, but before Michael, there was Dr. J.
Right.
So, you know, he wanted to be the best, and he wound up being the first. Michael Jordan, he wanted to be the best, and he became the first.
You know, and another thing that I wanted to talk about, because we talked about signing to a label as opposed to doing your own thing.
Yeah.
This is a hot topic because everybody thinks that they have to be signed to a label.
With all due respect to my friends in the industry, labels, you may want to turn it off now. I am not a big fan of that mindset. You don't need it. You didn't need it in the 80s, you certainly don't need it today. All right? And just the real short version, the less than 2-minute version, is there is such a wealth of information out there and avenues that were not even conceived of when we started. You know, an artist had to spend so much upfront money putting the wax together, getting it packaged,
Right.
getting it out to people, giving it away so that they would have a chance of playing it.
Right.
There was all that time, effort, and money. I can think of one artist, one tweet, talking about one song on one platform, and will do more than anything.
I'm gonna need you to save that thought.
Sure.
Because we're going to a commercial break. Now, when we come back, what we're gonna talk about is the same thing. Because I'm gonna tell you, as an author, my biggest dream is to be signed to Simon and Schuster.
Good for you. I don't think you need it, but good for you.
Right, but that has always been my aspiration. Well, that was when I started out, because that's what I knew.
Right.
But knowing what I know now, it's not my goal anymore.
Good for you.
You understand what I'm saying?
Exactly.
My goal is to get my product out, to satisfy the people, to gain more people, and to distribute my own platform and on my own platform, my own product. We're going to commercial.
Okay.
Keep your thought.
Ready?
Hi, it's your girl Lisa B. Welcome back to the new season of On the Couch with Lisa B. We're returning from a commercial break, and I want to say welcome to PTV1. And I'm back with Easy D, a pro in his industry. Not only is he a pro from the other industry, but he's from the pros.
I am from The Pros, DJ Pool. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And when we left, we were talking about, why do you need a label?
And the answer is security. You, or the lazy way out. You can take your pick, in my mind. That is with all due respect to labels. The reason I say that is, back when we started,
Right.
you needed a label to help front you. Seed money, if you will. So to put together the LPs, to put together the master. You
Right.
know, you've done all that, all the lab work and everything.
Okay.
You take that tape, then you take it to a place where they make the records for you. So then you buy crates and crates and crates of records to give away. Well, all of that costs money.
So you needed their finances.
Or their reputation.
Okay.
You said Simon and Schuster. That name I know. I'm sure that there is a label, a book company out there. I have no idea. You can drop their name and I'll say who. You know, so you needed them. You thought you needed them more than they needed you.
Right.
Yeah, but that's not true. And the reason is Simon and Schuster would not have you if you didn't have the content.
Right.
You know, how are they promoting you? How are they going to make money if they don't have you, if they don't have your product?
Right.
You know, they would just be a company like Blockbuster. Or
So the artist fuels their company. Absolutely.
The artist is the content.
Right.
And so now, whether that content was 35 years ago with labels and going out and putting it on wax and distributing it through the clubs and the radio, or today, where the content goes out on this platform, for example, and it reaches so many people, and more importantly, it's going to be there forever. Everything we're talking about now, 100 years from now, they'll be able to go back, if they know where to look, they'll be able to go back and see this.
You know, you're right. And you know what? I'm going to tell you what the good thing about it is that the internet has completely changed the game when it comes to distribution.
I would say it changed the paradigm. The game's still the same.
Okay, so, because what has happened now, if you know how to market, if you know how to hustle, and you have some wisdom, you can become your own greatest distributor.
Exactly.
There are people who have their own websites. I'm not talking about YouTube channels or anything like that,
Right.
but are able to generate enough traffic to their own website because they're savvy enough.
Right.
Where they're selling $1 million worth of product on their own website.
Exactly. And distributors, distribution, labels, third party is basically what it boils down to. Somebody helping you. There's nothing wrong with that. Some people need help. Okay. I used to consider myself one of the greatest DJs, but I couldn't put a song together. I can't sing.
Right.
And I don't know how to play an instrument.
Right.
So I say all that to say this. You may need help, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's your artistry, regardless of what that art is. That's the content. And with the environment the way it is today, you can create your own website.
Right.
And you don't have to do a thing with it after that, because it will start to build on its own. Now, the more you put into it, of course, the greater the expansion. But you have to put the work in. You know.
You have to put the work in, and one of the things that I used to like about labels is that they had artist development. Because you can have all the stuff, you can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't know how to talk to anybody about your product, if you can't explain your own product, you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
If you can't sit in a meeting and articulate yourself well, if you don't know how to present yourself, then it doesn't matter about your gift.
Right. Absolutely. And that's where you had A&R people. Okay. Again, there wasn't and isn't anything wrong with a label per se. Okay. You just have to accept the fact that you're giving up a lot of your freedom and
All of it.
and creative. Well, some people have a little bit, or maybe they assume they do, or they imagine they do. But the more hands you have involved, the less creative control you have. Yeah, and there are pluses and minuses to that. But
of course, because I know, I do a different industry, I write, but I know once I turn my book over to someone else, I don't care how much I like my book cover, they're going to put a new book cover on it.
Exactly.
They're going to change the spine of the book. They're going to put a new branding. Everything is going to become different about it.
Right.
They might even change the storyline a little bit.
Right.
And it's the same thing with any form of distribution.
Right. Except now, you can take your content, you can put it on the web, you can put it to your web address,
Right.
and you can say, here's my work. Hope you enjoy it.
Now, is that a good idea? Now, let me ask you this. Is it a good idea for an artist to do their thing and put it out without having at least a group that they're working with, or some kind of little machine behind them that can have several eyes on their project?
Sure.
Because what you do is you get full of yourself, you don't see any mistakes. I tried to edit my own book one time.
Oh, yes.
And it was a disaster.
Yes. I guess it depends on, and this is why I was hesitating in the answer or thinking about the answer. It depends on what it is you want to do.
Okay.
If you, as an artist, if you want to just keep a roof over your head and your belly fed, you should be able to do that on your own. I mean, you just go out there and hustle. That's just, grinding 101.
Right.
If you want to be remembered, then you need other people to remember you, but you don't need them to help remember you, if that makes sense. You can go out on the internet, you can have a cat run into a tree.
Okay.
Right? That's the analogy I love using. You can have a cat run into a tree, get 1 million hits on YouTube. That cat's going to be remembered forever.
Right.
Cat didn't wake up that morning expecting to be remembered forever. Okay? And if that's what you want. If you want to make a career out of it, that's where it starts getting complicated.
Right.
And that's where the machine comes into play. So it just depends on what it is you want to do. And I don't have that answer. Artists like Critta, like Jay Griffey, like Mac Mall, they have to know what they want. Now, Mac Mall, he's been in the game for 30 plus years. He knows what he wants. Artists like Critta and Jay Griffey, I believe they know what they want. you know, so.
So you're saying you have to know what you're working towards.
Exactly.
And so if you know this is the end result I want, then all your steps along the way should be working towards that end result.
Right.
And see, that's why I was talking about quality. Because quality is everything. It's everything, especially when you're talking about your product and having eyes on your product. Because when you do something, of course, you look at it, you like it. I remember one time we were doing a church event, right? I always use this, and we put our money together, and we got 5,000
Wow.
of these cards printed up, right? And nobody had money at the time. So after we got the cards, guess what?
What?
The lady never had anybody look at it before she ordered it. Did the graphic, she didn't put the date.
Oops. Yeah, well.
But the flyer looked good.
The flyer looked great.
So that's what I talk about when I talk about individual artists,
Right.
not having anyone working with them. There's always, if you're that individual, you always going to be something that you're missing. But when you can even just have a group of your friends.
Exactly.
Who come over and look at your stuff and look at your product. And this is what I want to talk about. You can't be thin-skinned in the industry.
Oh, no. That's where, now, if you're talking about, you know, the game itself, the industry, that's where you need a manager. You need someone to be that person to say no, to be that thick skin for you. Because people are always going to talk about you in a negative way.
Absolutely.
That can't be helped. That's just human nature. However, now going back to this as a business, that same cat running into the wall,
Right.
got 1 million hits. Didn't matter if people clicked it because they loved it. Hate cats. Didn't matter what the reason. It was the buzz that got people, you know, hey, did you see that cat run into the wall? Ooh, no. Let me see.
It's
Ooh.
a numbers game.
It's a numbers game. It's a numbers game. And with it, and it all starts though, and now we talk about quality. Well, I mean, you know, it's a cat running into a wall. Where's the quality? You know, but it's the buzz. It's the buzz.
So create a buzz. You've heard it. It's your girl Lisa B. I'm in season number 1. Tune in. Easy D. There's a lot of young people out there. Leave them with the word of advice for starting into the industry.
Believe in yourself. It all begins and ends there. The more you trust yourself, the more you'll achieve.
Well, you heard it right here on the Lisa B Show. It's your girl. We'll be on Mondays and Wednesdays, PTV1 at 2 o'clock. I love you, big.
And forever on the internet.
And forever on the internet. You can't wipe me out.
Nope. You're stuck with us now.
I have an IP address.
Ooh.
I love you, big, and I love you much.